Hey, Anthony, it's Thursday, but I know what you'd like to say.
Are you sure it's Thursday?
Oh, you usually like to say Happy Friday.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Anthony Melchiori. So great to see you, my friend.
All these months of having that intro, it's the first time I realized that we're at the beautiful, one of the beautiful hotels in Vegas. I think we were at the Aria. I can't remember.
No, it was the Park MGM when they reopened.
Wow, you're a smart person. But
no, I remember not being there and being sad and jealous.
But my camera and my computer was on an ice bucket. And I just realized as I'm looking at the intro, I was like, wow, what a great production that my computer and my phone is on an ice bucket. That was fun.
Well, you know what, Anthony? That's the kind of things that we do behind the scenes to make sure that we can create the best broadcast every day. But, Anthony, I would recommend, instead of putting stuff on an ice bucket, put it on one of these great trash cans from our good folks at Eco Tech Waste. Why? Because not only make you look good when you're doing a podcast, but it's also going to help save the environment. That's right, because 1,564 of these little guys is equal to the carbon footprint of just one traditional waste basket. And you know how much money you can save on labor, not having to empty these things out, clean these things out. Perfect for conference facilities. Your events are coming back. Invest in these guys right now. Tell them No Vacancy sent you. Get 10% off.
As you're talking, and I love those trash cans. I just think about you slipping it over your head so no one can see you.
Yeah.
No, don't do it.
Let's see how that looks. It reminds me of the Unknown Comic from the Gong Show.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. So, Glenn, I love your living room, Glenn.
Hey, actually, this is not my living room. This is the Four Seasons in Whistler,
Beautiful.
Which just so happens to have had all of the purchasing done by our guest today, Mark Friesen at Beyer Brown. Mark, great to see you, man.
Good to see you too. How you guys been?
Great. Listen, this property is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. This is the type of stuff that they do. They're an FF&E procurement specialist. They've been in business since 1978. Welcome, Mark. I'm so glad that you're here today. We're going to be talking to everybody about supply chain issues again. We did a show on it a few weeks ago, and we've been asked so many questions, so we wanted to touch base with everybody, give you the latest that's going on, give you some more strategies in order to be successful. But before we do that, Mark, tell us a little bit about Beyer Brown and all of that kind of good stuff so we could orient our watchers.
Sure. So, yeah, we're a procurement firm based in Orlando, Florida. We've got some offices spread out around the country and in Canada. And, it's all we do is buy FF&E for hotels. And, I love the industry. Love the all the challenges that are in front of us right now and the opportunities. It's interesting. Our clients are some of the biggest entrepreneurs out there, and you can't help but be inspired by what they see in the marketplace and right. What they're willing to share. So it's fun times.
Right. So, Anthony, these guys are working all over the place, like the Sable at Navy Pier, which is a brand, is that still under construction, Mark?
It's done.
Yeah, it's done. Great.
Which hotel is that?
The Sable at Navy Pier.
Wow.
Yeah. Westin and Napa, Fairmont, Scottsdale Princess, Kimpton in Sacramento, the Lodge at Vail, W Bellevue. I could go on and on and on, but we want to get some content today as opposed to just talking about where he's done this sort of stuff. So what's the situation today? What's the big picture before we start breaking it down into the components? Where are we at right now with supply chain troubles?
Well, it's, whether it's toilet paper or lumber or whatever it's been, the last 12 months has been a real challenge. And it seems to show itself in all different sort of product levels and even countries around the world. So right now, we still have huge delays at the ports. And we probably don't see that relaxing or getting any better until probably the new year, because right now what we're seeing are the Christmas orders that are coming through. So all the retailers are getting ramped up for Christmas, and that doesn't help our port situation.
Anthony, you're muted.
Why is the port situation so dire?
Well, from our perspective, you look at what happened in the 12 months, and I think it'll take years for us to really have a firm grasp as to why it all got all clustered. But, there was just a displacement of containers around the world. There was a concentration of at different ports that we weren't expecting. And it was, everything just got upset. And whether it was the impact of COVID on manpower to offload, or whether it be truck drivers or warehousing or what have you, it was just completely disrupted. And so retail, as you know, got huge demand. Amazon orders went up, and it was just a really interesting time.
I just saw something that said Amazon workers, they're hiring 15 workers for every 10 for every 10 workers, they're hiring 15 are leaving. So they're running out of people to hire.
Wow. That's pretty crazy stuff right there. And we all know what's going on with the labor issues all over, not just in hospitality, but in all sectors of the economy. And I think that they're having trouble at the ports as well. But it's more of a cascading type of effect, I think, what you're talking about here, Mark. We had the Ever Given situation with the Suez Canal back in February, which only exacerbated the situation. And I don't think it's gotten smoothed out yet. If you have a giant container ship, some of these ships now can hold up to 22,000 containers on the largest side of them. One of those bad boys gets stuck. It can't make it from the Suez Canal up to Rotterdam, for example, and then can't make it to the United States, for example. Everything keeps getting set back. And at some point, it's just going to be weeks and weeks and weeks delays, no matter how you cut it. Right, Mark?
Yeah, Glenn, the other thing that happens as a result is these containers that are stuck on ships for up to 30 days off the coast of LA, for example. Now there's a shortage of containers to go and pick up the products from the manufacturers offshore. So it just, like you're saying, cascading effect, it just pushes everything back. And so there's a lot of product that still isn't on the water yet, that they're waiting for these containers to come back so that they can get them on the ships.
I saw something that said, these container houses that are popping up all over America that
Right.
people built, that the container house has gone up three times in the last 6 months because containers are so expensive.
They have, yeah, and you can't even buy them in certain areas. There's just zero availability. It doesn't matter how big your checks can write.
So has this affected hotel openings? Have you been part of any hotel openings that have been delayed?
Yes, yeah, for sure. There's lots of delays on products, and yeah, that's the trick. What can you do to avoid some of these sticky ports or sticky situations? How do you get around where these the real bottlenecks are?
Yeah, and it has a cascading effect, as you said, because when you delay an opening, the bank doesn't understand that the container doesn't have your couches, and they can care less. They just want to know, is my interest payment of 9% available, please? Thank you.
Right. And Mark, I bet there's another problem too that I've been hearing about. If you have your materials that just get stuck out on the ocean for a much longer than expected, they may not be in the shape that you're hoping when they arrive, which could cause even more problems. I'm just thinking about if you got a ship out there and you got a lot of humidity and all of that kind of stuff, it could damage furniture theoretically, right?
It could. We don't see a lot of that, though. I think a lot of the manufacturers, their packaging departments, they kind of know what the weather and what the potential concerns would be.
Glenn, can you do me a favor? There's enough problems. Can you not add to them, please? Thank you.
That's my goal in life, though, man. Make things more difficult, particularly for you.
So where do you see it? Does that make everything go up? I mean, is your prices going up? Are you just seeing fees go through the roof because of all the issues? I'd imagine if you work in a hotel, I'll just use an arbitrary example. It takes you 3 months to do your job. Now I'd imagine it's going to take you 6 months to do your job. So does that cost start impacting the hotel owner as well?
Well, it is costing hotel owners because, number one, the delays cost them, opening perhaps delays, but it's just the logistics, the shipping and container costs could be 2 to 3 times what they budgeted for originally.
Wow,
So
that's incredible. Anthony, prices are rising. You're absolutely right. And according to Suresh Archaya, who's a professor at University of Maryland's Business School who studies supply chain issues, he says the matters in the near term are actually have a direct impact on inflation. So it's not bad. It's already bad enough that we have all these other issues, but this is another situation that's piling on it. And I also learned from looking at this article that I just pulled up in Quartz magazine that there are 3 major container manufacturers out there: CIMC, DFIC, and CXIC. They supply about 80% of the shipping containers globally. They've boosted their production to record rates, but according to a major executive in that field, it's not enough of a dent to even make, not enough to even make a dent in this shortage over there. That's crazy. Yeah. So are things getting better in certain areas? Like the toilet paper thing happened a long time ago. Now I go to the store, there's plenty of toilet paper. What are some of the challenges that you're dealing with today about specific products that are out there, or spot product categories?
Okay, so there was, from lumber to foam. We've seen this in the past. I think there's just kind of a realization that it's across the board. Glenn, it's kind of each property or each project that we're working on. They're selecting such a wide range of products that it just kind of hits everything. And I think as much as we're told and we're led to believe that inflation isn't really happening, you can't help but see that the prices are going across the board.
Well, 3/4 of a tank of gas for my car cost me $80 yesterday, so I see it. Now, I just saw something. As you guys were talking, I just saw something. In the middle of June, there was an article that came out that said a new task force from the White House will examine issues that surfaced during the pandemic. The Biden administration released recommendations following a 100-day review of varying supply chain issues, including the creation of a task force. The Supply Chain Disruption Task Force would examine issues that surfaced during the pandemic, including all kinds of shortages. So if the White House is getting involved, government's getting involved, it'll be solved tomorrow. The government will fix it tomorrow. But that's how big it is. It's not just the hotel industry. The White House now has a task force in charge of figuring out what's going on for twofold. One, because it's causing inflation, and 2, because it's going to have an impact on economic growth. And so it's serious across the board. And I think, really the only answer is time. I mean, it's just got to be time. Throwing money at the problem, I don't think is going to solve anything. I think it's just going to be time. Like you said, I didn't even know. It's the first time I'm hearing that Christmas is getting in the way in July of me getting a couch for a hotel.
Yeah, because we're all we work months in advance, right? So we're booking our containers, not for today and tomorrow necessarily, but in a couple of weeks' time. But I think going back to hospitality, what the other thing that's going to be impacting the pricing or the inflation is there's been a bit of a hiatus in the PIP renovation schedules. And meaning, so there's been less of a demand on the factories that do produce the furniture for hotels. And they did kind of pivot towards the retail if they could.
Fascinating. So the same situation that's happening in other sectors, for example, automotive, they didn't think they were going to make any sales. They canceled all of these giant chip orders. The chip manufacturers went somewhere else. Now they can't get the product in place. The same sort of situation is happening now, I suppose, because home renovation soared over the last year, and that's impacted it. Right, Mark?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And we haven't seen the huge resurgence in the hotel renovation cycle yet. Mm-hmm. But, like I was saying before, hotel owners are the most entrepreneurial group out there. And what they're going to notice is what the guys doing kitty corner to them or around the corner from them on their block. And as soon as they renovate, mm-hmm. And I really think and believe that the traveling, discerning public are going to be, as much as they're going to have a sort of an understanding about the impacts of COVID on labor and cleanliness and accessibility to all the different functions of a hotel, right. They're very critical. And, whether it's the social media platforms that they're reporting on, taking photos and and leaving their latest comments about orange juice and coffee. It's going to be rewarding those properties that do keep their FF&E or their renovations on schedule, and if at all possible, because they're going to get the best reviews.
So how do you keep your renovation on schedule in a world where it seems impossible to keep anything on schedule? You got to, if I want to have my hotel open in January, should I have started 6 months ago?
Oh yeah, you got start planning as soon as possible, and I think there's a lot of things you can do right now, and if you are part of the PIP schedule, maybe right now you can negotiate a bit of a better sort of renovation, and maybe more in line with what you have in mind as opposed to what the brand has, and maybe you're moving away from your independent brand to more of the Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt brands, because you want their reservation system, and people take confidence in staying in one of these larger brands that have the policies and procedures and the cleaning standards in place.
Well, now it's 16:10 into the show, 16 minutes and 10 seconds into the show, and this is the time where we go off on a tangent. So let's go off on a tangent. This is tangent time. We made our own problem, and we made our own problem because we started importing everything, and we got away from building stuff in our backyard, and that is the problem. We're suffering all kinds of issues because we are not made in America. And that is a huge, huge problem. When you take 80% of what you need to build a hotel, it's all made somewhere else, and it's not made in America. We made our own problem. Now back to regular scheduled programming.
Right. So, we did definitely create our own problem, but I got to tell you, Mark, you are the one that's in the middle that has to deal with it all of the time. So when you're thinking of those renovations and schedules right now, what is your situation when you get that call? Mark, we're thinking about doing XYZ. What happens next to set expectations and get people to understand what's really happening out there?
Well, I think, our owners, they may have put their budgets together, sometime a quarter ago or some, even earlier in the year. And we got to revisit those. We got to give them another set of eyes on their budgets to make sure that they're still current and they can still afford to do what they're planning to do.
We just lost him.
You just hit the wrong button. That's why.
Nope, not me. I didn't do it.
I disagree.
All right. So maybe I did. Maybe I was just intimidated.
I saw you move your mouse, and all of a sudden
he's coming back right now. No.
Sorry, guys.
I was actually saying, oh, good. Now we can end early today and could go in my pool and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, do you recall what you're saying? Please continue.
Just say revisit your budgets. You cannot assume that what you had planned for earlier in the year still represents what the market's gonna tell you. So we have to revisit those budgets, make sure they're current, and you can afford what you want to do.
So what happens if you realize that, I budgeted this, I budgeted an X, it's now Y, but I still need to deliver everything on X in order to make my brand happy and my guests happy?
Oh.
Yeah, I know it's tricky.
How much time do we have here?
You said before we went on, you appreciate that I asked the hard question. So there's one for you.
Yeah. So what do you do? So, then you go to, where you're going to find some more money, go and try and refinance and do it. Yeah. You're going to do a capital call with your general, your partners, whatever you're going to do.
Wait, did you say, Mark, did you just say capital call?
Oh,
could you click him off, please?
I know Anthony hates those calls.
Or you try and negotiate the scope, right? So with your brand or with your management company, you say, okay, listen, here's where we're at, and maybe there's some concessions that you can negotiate.
Yeah. Interesting. You'll never get your FF&E items if you do not order them. Place your orders to get in line, realizing logistics will be delayed. But you got to get those orders in, says Steve Erasmo. That makes
Steve, I love you, and you're a great viewer, but I'm going to just call you Captain Obvious for today, all right?
All right, so let's see. What about Matt? The uptick in all goods from F&B to soft goods rooms are making all our budgets wonky. Yeah, everything's got to be reorganized because it's not just the stuff that you're buying. It's the people that are working in your hotels as well that you're probably having to realize you're going to need to pay more as well. So it's a real boom, boom, double hit. Mark, the brands, as soon as the industry starts getting back, they have a tendency to go, hey, you got to do these pips now. We were nice last year, not so much this year. I totally get where they're coming from. I also get where the owners are coming from. How do you think it's all going to shake itself out over the next 6-8 months? Do you think the brands will be like, all right, we get it. Or they're going to turn the screws and maybe force some people to say, I'm going to make myself a independent hotel instead?
Well, not disclosing more than I should. I think every property has their own situation. If you're an urban, convention hotel, I think you have a different argument than if you're in South Florida.
That's right.
And you've had, better RevPAR numbers this past, July 4th long weekend than you did even pre-pandemic. So, there's a different argument. The resort property doesn't want to take any rooms out of their system right now, so they don't want to do the renovation. The guys in the urban convention hotel, they just don't have the money, and they can't leverage their balance sheet because it just doesn't show it. So
that makes sense. Now, if you guys do have empty rooms out there, check our show from yesterday where we talked to Innovative Travel Marketing about how to turn those empty rooms into rooms that will actually make you money through an interesting barter advertising arrangement. Check that out. Yesterday's show, July 14th. So, Anthony, this is really a very, very interesting thing to me. As the hotel operations expert, what would you do in this situation if you right now were tasked with having to renovate a hotel and you felt you were up against the deadline?
Go to my designer and see what I can do close to home. See what I can do, reuse kind of what we have. And really try to delay it. I hate to say it, but really try to kind of wait till this is over if I could. But really get a designer to say, listen, we're in California, we're in New York, we're in Maryland. There's manufacturing here. Find me product that's here. Go to a craftsman that builds shower doors that's local. And let's see if we can make a deal. See if we can't get all of them, see how many we can get. So I would be very, very, they say farm to table. I would say manufacture to the table. I would be very in my backyard trying to get as many things manufactured and procured in my area as possible.
Yeah. Mark, would you agree with that?
I do, until you get to the boardroom table and you say that shower enclosure is going to cost you this locally. And then, unfortunately, I'm going to show you a number that's going to be significantly less than that. It's from another source offshore. Right. And you have to sit there and pull your hair out.
And Mark, that's a really good argument to that point. However, then you whiteboard it and you say, okay, it's going to take 4 weeks. It's going to be upcharged because of shipping. And now the cost is basically in line, and maybe it does cost you a little bit more money even if you buy it from your next door neighbor, from someone in your area. But what does that cost you as far as brain damage, as far as aggravation, as far as keeping the building closed and having to pay that interest rate? So there's so much to it. I mean, I've done cash flow analysis many, many times in scenarios like this. When you renovate, if you close it, you open it, you close food and beverage, you leave food and beverage open, you close the service. There's so many ways of doing it. And a lot of times, there was one in particular when I was renovating a hotel in the city that we actually chose curtain number 3, which was more expensive, because I said, if we got delayed another week, how much would it cost? I said, well, that would probably be more expensive if we're just delayed a week or two than if we go with option number 3. So there's a lot to think about.
Sorry.
You go ahead.
No, you go. You're the guest.
We love the local manufacturing. We wish it was all back in North America, and it would make our lives so much easier.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. That's it. Period. End of story. Move on, right?
It would make it so much easier. And we've saw some sort of rebirth of American manufacturing over the last 6-7 years or so, but it certainly hasn't gotten to be enough. And and one thing I would think is a lot of people when they're thinking about budgeting and stuff like that, they don't figure in the numbers like Anthony was saying. If you are going to lose an extra 2-3 weeks, what is the real cost of that? People only look at the numbers and the stuff that's right in front of them.
Mark, how many times have you been in a meeting where you try to warn a client and try to direct them in a certain way, and at the end, a year later, they're over budget by 20%, and you could have literally diverted them away from that 20% over, right? Simply because they don't see the entire picture.
Well, we have these conversations all the time, and I wouldn't say that they're naive in making their decision, but we just don't know what's coming, in 6 months or 9 months time. The safe bet is what we're talking about: manufacture local, if at all possible, and you have a lot more certainty on some of your cost factors.
Right. So Glenn is going to go into manufacturing FF&E business for hotels.
I think that's a great idea. Really, it's been my calling. This whole thing has been an unpleasant detour for me. But Mark, I think the best way for people to understand it is when I had a job once, and I'm a frequent flyer with my favorite airline, and the controller of the company, the CFO, would be like, "Why do you always fly that airline? You could save $50 by flying this airline." I'm like, "No, I can't, because they're going to charge me for luggage. I'm not going to get upgraded to first class. That when I get into first class, I'm going to get free food, free drinks that you don't have to pay for. It's a whole lot cheaper to spend more money." And I think that people really need to understand that sometimes if you spend more, you're actually spending a lot less. But we don't have in this culture this looking at things from all angles. We just see what's right in front of us and don't really critically think about the issues. And I'll tell you, Mark, it's one of the things that drives me craziest about American society.
I'll add another one to your thing about that airline analogy is if people are getting bumped and there's delays in flights, you with your frequent flyer.
That's right.
You're getting on that next flight when the poor guy at the back who doesn't have any
That's right.
with the airline, he's waiting 3 hours to get that next plane.
Right. Or 3 days, and they'll miss the entire event that you were sending to in the first place, which will damage your company even more. But I got breaking news here, everybody. I know that this is what you tune into this show. Anthony, the next flight that I take, I'm going to be hitting 1 million miles on Delta. I'm just 2,000 short, and I'm going to LA, so I'm going to hit it. Very exciting.
1 million miles, like total that you, wow. So you're the million mile club.
Yeah, I can't wait to get that lifetime silver status. Which
wow, I'm quite away from it. I think I just saw something. I'm 200,000 miles away, but I did make diamond already this year.
Wow.
Yeah, I made diamond. It's not even July. It's not the end of July already.
Wow.
So what's the status when you're the million mile? It's the what did you say? Silver? What did
you get silver status. I'm platinum now. They give you permanent silver status. So if I ever stop flying entirely, at least I'll always have that. But you got to get
silver status. All they allow you to do is get on the airplane.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being a silver member. You get absolutely nothing. But yeah, the million mile mark. I'm not a points guy. Because it really motivates you to want to get more points, so you travel more. So yeah. I did notice that I'm a couple 100,000 miles away from 1 million, which I would have thought I'd been 1 million already. But this is 1 million for how long? Like your whole career?
No, because I started flying Delta late. Our good buddy, Bruce Ford, he's like, "Why are you flying all these different airlines? That's not going to help you. You're going to get nowhere ever." I'm like, "Good point, brother." And I started flying one airline, and it's made all the difference in my quality of travel.
Well, we're flying out to the same place on next Sunday?
Yeah, a week from Sunday.
From Sunday.
Mm-hmm. That'll be cool.
What's the mood going to be at the Alice conference this year? What are you guys anticipating?
It's going to be jubilant.
That's which conference are we talking about? I didn't hear you.
Alice, the America's Lodging Investment.
Yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely. It's my first real big conference. I don't do many conferences, but it's my first big one since the pandemic. So I'm looking forward to it.
I hear they're selling alcohol there.
Sorry. The alcohol sales typically during hotel conventions are through the roof. I would say it's going to be triple.
I remember one time Hoa held an event at the Gaylord Opryland, and they ran out of scotch and bourbon. That's how serious the hospitality industry is when it comes to drinking. But Mark, what do you're talking to all these guys every day. You were just telling me you were speaking to a couple of very, very high level people on a call before we got on here. What's their vibe about stuff? How are they thinking? How are they preparing for the future?
From ownership or from which perspective? Suppliers?
From the brands. What are they thinking in terms of success going forward?
Well, okay. How to answer that? The thing is, everyone believes in hospitality. We've all spent I think there's just a consensus that we all can't wait to get back and do our leisure travel and group travel. We just can't wait to get back into traveling. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a sense that everyone knows it's coming. Everyone knows that there's a huge tidal wave of pent up demand that's coming at our industry. And how do we sort of navigate between here and there? And what are going to be the toilet paper issues between now and there? And I think that's kind of the trick right now. And how are you best advocating for your clients, for your situation, and just to get around these potential potholes?
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. So if you were going to invest in a hotel today, what kind of hotel would that be and why?
Well, okay, so it's interesting. You're watching The Wire and you're seeing some of the acquisitions that are happening, and one would say, well, limited service has done quite well in the past 18 months. So, you would think that maybe those are fairly overpriced, or maybe they're priced to perfection. But yet you're seeing some very sophisticated buyers, industry sort of titans, that are going after those portfolios. And I would be very slow to think that those guys don't know what they're doing. And so I think that's kind of interesting. You were not seeing, well, we did see a couple transactions in the San Francisco, downtown, big urban, convention hotels recently. And you got to think that's where the deals are to be had. But I don't know, maybe we need to see a lot more transactions before people really understand, is there a discount to be had across the board in these different markets?
Mark, I'm going to give you the secret, Mark. You want it?
I'm going to write this down.
All right, just between you and me.
Okay.
150 rooms, limited service, B market, near a highway. You're welcome.
So, okay, but how is that priced now compared to pre-pandemic?
Well, there's not that many of those kind of shaken out because the owners are holding on to them because they're seeing their revenue. So there's not that many on the market. That's the problem.
So if they do go to market, they can demand what they want.
Right. But no, not necessarily, because they're seeing, well, maybe there's a bubble, so not everybody's going to lend to something like that. But if you're asking me, I would rather overpay a little bit for a limited service hotel that I can get back into budget shape right after this. So if I pay a little bit more, that's a hotel you can make your money back from, even if you pay a little bit more. You can't. It's really difficult to pay for a big convention hotel in San Francisco, overpay for that deal and make your money back, or even underpay for that deal and make your money back if that does not come back. And even in 2019, 2018, those hotels are very expensive to run. You look at the Times Square hotels, the ones that I won't mention them, but the 2 or 3 huge hotels that are now literally, in foreclosure, because even in 2019, they couldn't make their nut because those hotels are expensive to run. You take a 150 room hotel, limited service, you can run that hotel with one front desk agent, one night auditor, one supervisor, and just housekeeping fluctuates. And you have somebody put out your breakfast in the morning. Those are the hotels. I mean, Glenn's heard me talk about that to nauseam. I was just working on a deal like that in Florida. That's where my head's at, but that's where my head's been at for the last 20 years, because I saw it in New York City a private company that owns 37 hotels in New York City, and they're all limited service, very little food and beverage.
Right.
You can eat off of the floor in their basement. Cleanest hotels, well serviced, no frills, and they print money in the basement.
Right. So that's a safe bet, right? But if you have the ability and you want to swing for the fences and you want to take that risk, where's the deal to be had? It's that property you just mentioned in Times Square. You're going to get a discount on that, and if you can work your magic and you can right the ship, that's the biggest.
Sure. So when you're the bigger houses and you're looking for a bigger return on your investment, absolutely. But if you're asking me if there's a family office that wants to buy 7 hotels, I got 7 Holiday Inn Expresses I can sell you.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Anthony, will there be a straw breaking the camel's back for the amount of those eventually?
Well, I don't think so. Listen, it's supply and demand. It's capitalism at its best. I don't think. Listen, we're more sophisticated, as I've been saying, in revenue management, more sophisticated in financing, more sophisticated in operations. The big players, the management companies and the brands and the capital people have been through a lot of rodeos in the last 20 years. And so I just think that this will all pan out. Everybody will make money at the right time. And some people make a little bit less money. Some people make a little bit more money. Everybody thought coming out of the pandemic, there's going to be these big, these big sales. And all of a sudden you're going to be able to sweep up 50, limited service hotels for $3. And it didn't materialize. And they also thought a lot of hotels would go bankrupt, and it didn't materialize. So I think
the future as well, right? After the financial crisis 10 years ago, same thing.
Listen, the great thing about our business, fortunately, unfortunately, right? There's 2 businesses or 3 businesses that always stay in business: the funeral home business, the healthcare business, and the hospitality business. Because people need to travel, people need to die, and people need to get better.
Yep. Well, that's a really great point. So, guys, I just got an email. A few seconds.
Okay, he got an email and it said you have basically been barred from hosting the show. So Anthony is now co-hosting with Mark. So, Mark, during the pandemic, what's the one thing that you will remember, whether it be personal or professionally, that
I don't know what happened to me there.
No, we're not talking to you right now. So a big takeaway from the pandemic, personally or professionally.
Wow. I think one of them was I never could have imagined airports being empty, hotels being shuttered,
Vegas being closed,
the travel industry being decimated overnight.
Yeah,
I was on a plane coming back from Dallas on March 11th and walking through the Dallas airport, and everyone's eyes were huge and everyone didn't know, someone coughed a mile away and everyone freaked out. That wasn't a good situation, but it gave me confidence going full circle to see where we are now, that we're resilient. We figure this out. Yeah. And we'll get ahead of this one.
It's fascinating that you said that, because the other day I was surrounded by a bunch of people and everybody's coughing and sneezing and eating, and I actually got a cold now because I was out and about, and I was like, I've never been so happy to have a cold, because that means we're all back together and we're not worrying about other people's breathing on you. And I remember those moments of walking through an airport with your eyes like this, like, what do I do? And scrubbing my groceries in my garage. I mean, and I hope we just keep telling those stories, and I hope there's a lot of books and poems and music written about those feelings, because I remember during 9/11 when the towers came down, and I remember all of that feeling and all of that emotion, and I said, I'm going to write a book about these feelings, or at least write it down, and I never did. And tapping into those emotions are difficult 30 years later, or 20 years later, however long it's been. And I was like, I don't think I'll ever be able to remember how bad it really, really was. And same thing with the pandemic. Glenn, before the FCC booted you from the podcast,
yes.
What were you saying?
Things that are way too dangerous.
What were you saying?
Saying the International Hospitality Investment Forum, which is held in Berlin, obviously was canceled last year. headline for the events is confidence is restored. And I do feel that way in every facet of the industry. Sure, we have unexpected challenges and different types of things that we need to work through, but I think there's an underlaying and even overlaying sense of confidence all around that we can do it individually and as an industry.
And you know what? I like a better tagline. You know, I'm a marketing guy.
Yeah. Come
restore confidence.
Yep.
Confidence is not restored. I think that tagline's overshooting and is over. It's saying too much. I think come restore confidence is a better tagline, but that's just me. So hire me to.
Can I hit you guys from a different angle on this?
What's that?
Can I hit you from a different angle on this?
Please.
So I think corporate travel is going to come back.
Yep.
Not from us trying to tell people to be, we're going to be safe and we're going to be looking out for you.
Correct.
It's going to come back because we are all super competitive.
That's right.
And the moment we lose a contract or a job because our competitor flew to meet that client, establish that personal relationship, which business is based on, and you didn't, you thought you could zoom in on that call?
Yep.
You're on that next plane.
100%. And we talked about that recently. We said that, and that's why I said come restore confidence, because come restore confidence is exactly like come and go beat your client. Go beat your competitor, I should say. Go and do your job. Come restore confidence. So I think you're exactly right. It's like this not only this country, but countries are based on supply and demand and competitiveness, and period, end of story. And like that's why we want to see the Olympics. I'm so excited, even though there's no spectators. There's going to be press and there's going to be Olympians. And to me, it's not about winning or losing. It's about restoring the confidence in being competitive again and restoring our confidence that we're getting back to normal. And I can't agree with you more. You can't govern. You can give us a vaccine, but you can't govern us to tell us when to go out of our houses, when we want to wear a mask or not wear a mask. I mean, you can govern that, but if I want to wear a mask, even though I'm vaccinated, I'm going to wear one. If I don't want to get vaccinated, I'm not going to get vaccinated. And you just do your best as a government and just put people back into their field, and let's see what happens. This whole notion, I would love them to mandate vaccines, but if they're not going to mandate vaccines, you can't go around knocking on people's doors saying get vaccinated. Either mandate the damn thing or leave people alone. You can't get half pregnant.
Mark, any final words?
I'm on fire today.
I know. Damn. I know.
Like it. I'll come visit you guys again sometime in person.
Yeah. Well,
we'll be in Alice.
Yeah. You're not going to Alice, are you?
So my personal situation is I'm in Canada.
Oh. So you're not going. You're not going anywhere for a little while.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. The lack of clarity on some of these traveling issues does not help anyone. If there's a chance that you have to quarantine, like how do you instill confidence in the traveling public when they're telling you, there's a chance that the rules might change before you return. There's a chance that you got to do this and do that. It's not very.
Yeah, a friend of mine, a client, was just telling me that you're going to stage 4, I guess, tomorrow or this week or something. And that means you can get off your couch, I think. What's the rule? You're confused.
What day is it? I don't know.
I don't know. Anthony.
Listen, we always were taught that Canada got their crap together. I'm so disappointed because I always look at the Canada and go, and I love Canada. I've been to Canada many times. And it's like, come on, guys, like you're not in front of us. You should be in front of us.
Well, I mean, the biggest issue that they've had, Anthony, is they open the hotels, then they tell them they have to close, and then they open them again, and then they tell them they have to close. And it's been very, very stressful for all of these Canadian hoteliers out there with a lack of clarity and direction. Right, Mark?
And there's been terrible situations. Or right before New Year's, our hotels were told that they had limited hours. So you're buying all your supplies well in advance. You're making bookings, and then all of a sudden the government pulls the carpet from underneath you. That is not fair. I can't understand that decision making.
Listen, the new rule, right? New rule.
Yeah. Surprise.
You cannot be in government unless you've run at least a candy store.
Right.
Because if you don't understand supply and demand and paying employees and taxes and inspections and health inspections and health codes, and you don't understand the real world economics of running a business, you should not be able to make rules surrounding it.
Well, the good news is it's great to hear that other governments are as screwed up as our government here in the United States. So that's good. Mark, time for your shameless plug. How do we learn more about you? How do we find you?
So we have a website, beyerbrown.com, and give us a call. We'd love to help you guys out. If you're facing any of the challenges we talked about here on this show, we can help navigate you through them.
So, Mark, if you've smiled a lot on this show, so I hope we've entertained you.
I had my coffee this morning.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Hope to see you eventually at an event here in the United States, or maybe if we can get up there in Canada. Thanks so much for being here, sir.
Awesome. Great seeing you.
All right. How are you, man? I tried to wait as long as I can before hitting the remove button. I don't want to, cut them off.
You don't want to insult people like you've been doing every day. Just remove people.
I know.
You know what? I love Mark. I love his attitude about the challenges he's facing. But, like in the hotel business, I always say when I take over a hotel, I say, let's look at the problems of the hotel.
Yep.
How many have we created? Okay, then we do a whiteboard and we 7 out of 10 problems we created internally for lack of staffing, lack of understanding a contract, lack of understanding our guest. So, okay, let's fix these 7 problems. Once we solve these 7 problems, okay, these 3 problems that we can never fix, we'll just manage those the best we can. But if you don't fix the 7 problems that you broke or that you're contributing to, and that to me is kind of like the whole thing that's going on now with the supply chain. We as Americans, we as America, we screwed up our problem. This is our problem because we went away from growing things here in America, manufacturing things in America. Now we're at everybody's. When you're telling me Chinese New Year is affecting the impact of giving me supplies, or Christmas, people are buying stuff from China for Christmas, so that's causing my docks to be backed up. And then China is buying all the docks, and we're letting them do that. Come on, man.
Yep, totally. Honestly, I blame the American school system. I saw this happening in the 1980s when they started to take away all of these programs designed to help people that love working with their hands and creating and building were de-emphasized. And everyone was told, if you don't go to college, you're no good. And I think that that's really affected our overall life, our lifestyle, and the attitudes of the American citizens down here.
Listen, I go one step further, and I want to go to the Israeli government and say, hey, how do we institute everybody going into the military in America? I think everybody should do 2 years in the military. There, I said it. You learn how to think, you learn confidence. And what I'm seeing and mentoring young people, and everyone that I'm mentoring, I see a lack of confidence. I had it when I was their age, and I went in the military, and it gave me confidence. When you're going into a business right out of high school, or going to learn how to woodwork or automotive, or you're going right to work, you're learning how to deal with life. Right. You're learning these challenges, and you're exactly right. I mean, we the art of thinking is the problem. We don't, and then what we do is we just stare into our phones all day long to be entertained, and there's no thinking going on. If you really think today, okay, do a test with yourself.
Right.
How many times did you actually have to think about solving a problem today? So by the time you go to sleep tonight, literally try to count how many times that you're in deep thought, creating or solving issues instead of just reacting to what's in front of you. Yep. I'm happiest when I'm challenged with really, really tough problems, which I'm actually challenged with on a couple of my business ventures now. It's like, that's what, I love that. That's the part of me that gets me excited, because I think that's what separates, the man from the boys, or I can't say it anymore, but from children from people, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Excellent. I think you're absolutely right there, Anthony. And
you can't tell that I'm on a rant today. You should ask me questions and let me get myself in trouble.
I really should, but you know what? I really like partnering with you, and I don't want to have a situation where you get in too much trouble.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question that just comes to the top of my head, Glenn.
Oh boy.
Okay, because we have a minute or two.
We do.
What's your favorite color?
Hunter green or blue?
Escalator or elevator?
Oh, I like elevators.
Cab or Uber?
Uber.
Vegas or LA?
Vegas, baby.
New York or Chicago?
New York.
How bad do you want to be Italian?
I feel like I'm nearly there. Coming to my lasagna. Anthony, what do you like better, fried chicken or ribs?
Neither.
Oh, that's real. That's really disappointing to me. What do you think about fried chicken and waffles?
Waffles.
Yeah. What about Atlantic City or Tunica, Mississippi?
I'm not answering that.
All right. Going to a conference or getting to go to a casino?
I'd rather go to a conference and eat chicken and sit in my room and wait for my next conference to happen.
All right. That's absolutely beautiful. And while you guys are waiting for Anthony to get to another conference, why not listen to the audio feed of our podcast? And of course, you can find that at No Vacancy Live or Checking In with Anthony and Glenn. We'd love for you to follow us on the Checking In with Anthony and Glenn thing at Apple Podcasts, at iHeartRadio, at Stitcher, and honestly, wherever you like to get those podcasts. They're on Google. They're everywhere. And if you want to reach out to either of us individually, check out at Anthony Hotels. And of course, I am at Traveling Glenn.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, it was a good episode today. All right, let's get out of here. Have a great weekend, everybody. Remember, tomorrow, 5 p.m., Friday Night Audit, we got the incredible Matt Hostetler on, the Chief Development Officer with Red Roof. This guy has been on the road for so many years. He's got great stories to tell. We're drinking vodka. What could go wrong? Find out tomorrow night, Friday Night Audit, right here on this channel that you're watching us on now at 5 p.m. All right, Anthony, let's get out of here. So remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
Be kind to yourself.
see y'all next week.